Hello, everyone. It's me, Africa. I'm so excited to be here today. I haven't done a live stream on YouTube in, let's just be honest, forever. It's probably been 3 or 4 years. But I used to do hangouts on air all the time. So I hope to at least do these, once a month. Um, so today, we're going to be talking about the power of responding versus reacting. So you can create a peaceful life, right? It's all about that. In fact, when I sent an email to my list, I was like, do you want to know how to create a peaceful life? This is it. It's responding instead of reacting. That is how you get the ultimate peace. You're like, is that it? No, there's more to it than that. So stay tuned. So if you don't know me, again, my name is Africa Archield, and I'm a joy expert. I love helping women to really kick stress, overwhelm, and exhaustion to the curb so they can transform into the generous, fulfilled, and just magnificent queens that they are. So that is what I do. And this is one of the main ways I get that done is helping women learn how to respond versus react. All right, so let's get to it. So first and foremost, I took some notes. I would forget things, guys. So I have my notes down here. All right, so first and foremost, I just realized if you have questions, I want to see it in the chat. Okay, I've turned on the chat now, so you should be able to chat. So if you have questions as I'm going along, please feel free to put them in the chat or comments. Let me know how you're feeling about what I'm saying. If you agree, disagree, I'm open for anything. All right, so one of the things I thought I'd start off with first is, what does it mean to respond versus to react? Right? What does it mean to, well, let me just give you an example. Let's start with a story. How's that? I love stories. So let's say, for example, you're at home, you have baked some yummalicious cookies, which I'm about to do after this live stream with my son. And after you bake the cookies, you put them on a cookie tray to cool, and then you put them in the cookie jar. Like everyone's eating some cookies, you put the rest in the cookie jar, and you put it up on the shelf. And it's an heirloom cookie jar, right? It's one that you got from your grandma, that she got from her grandma, that she got from her grandma, right? It's been passed down generation after generation. And so you love the cookie jar because so many memories, right? So many good times are involved with that cookie jar, right? So you go about your business, you come back in the kitchen, and you look on the shelf because you think, I think I'll have myself another cookie, and the cookie jar is gone. And you look around and you see pieces of cookie jar on the floor. Okay, so I want to know in the comments, what would you do? You see, whatever it is that you would do, it's either responding or it's reacting. Now, everyone has that kind of response thing going on, right? That's just an initial kind of reaction that we can have, right? Something's wrong, something's missing, and it's something that you cared a great deal about, right? So that initial, that's going to happen. So I want to know what's going to happen after that. That's what I want to know down in the comments. If you're watching this on the replay, just pause the video right here and write in what happens after the, let me know. Okay, so after that initial, chances are good you're either reacting or you're responding, right? So if you're reacting, it could turn out to be a whole lot of explicatives, looking in the trash, trying to figure out who broke the cookie jar, and just explosion, right? Anger, frustration, how could you do this to me? after I did that for you, kind of like bring up the whole kind of transactional parts of relationships, it can be an absolute hot mess, right? And I don't know about you, but I've been there many of times where I reacted and I was angry. And everyone around me got the brunt of it, whether or not they were the cause of the anger or not, right? And so when I say it really curtails your future happiness, that's why, because people become afraid of you. They don't know when you're going to break out in anger again. They don't know, or they are going to assume, rather, that you're going to react to things poorly, and they're going to be afraid to tell you things when they happen, or try to do things to, quote, make up for it, or to hide the action, right? Like finding the cookie jar not just in the trash but buried underneath trash, hoping you wouldn't notice, something like that, right? Those are the kinds of things that start happening, and it breeds dysfunction in whatever relationships, whether it's in your home or at work or with your friends. It breeds dysfunction, right? And when we breed dysfunction, there's a lot of things that go unsaid that cause things to fester. We'll get more to that festering thing in a few. So if that would be what you would do after the initial, just write down, I would react. And again, reacting is a normal thing, right? Absolutely normal. What I find more abnormal, at least in today's world, is responding, right? So let's say, same thing, you walked up, you had your initial, and instead of reacting, you responded. So you would take a moment to yourself and decompress. Now, when I say a moment, I'm not talking about, oh, now I need to go decompress for an hour, right? I'm talking about just take 30 seconds to just breathe. A few deep cleansing breaths so that you're thinking with a clear head. It's not the adrenaline having you really not think, right? You're able to access the higher functioning of your frontal cortex, right? If you just take 30 seconds to breathe. 30 seconds. That's it. This is the difference between reacting and responding. 30 seconds of taking some deep cleansing breaths so that the higher mind, your executive functioning can kick in instead of your reptilian mind that's getting pissed off and ready to knock everyone out, right? That's the difference. 30 seconds. Try it. See how it works for you. I'm not kidding. So that's one of the tools that I really use to respond rather than to react. So the other thing is, once I'm breathing like that, right? Once I take some deep cleansing breaths, I can really be in the moment, right? Again, that higher executive functioning is working. I can really assess the situation and determine a good way to respond to it, right? So let me tell you a couple of ways I tend to respond. First and foremost is I would ask, what happened? Does anyone know what happened? And I wouldn't do that in a voice of accusing, right? What happened, right? None of that. It's like, what happened? Does anyone know? I noticed the cookie jar was broken. And then typically, now let me say this, once you start responding rather than reacting to situations, people will be proactive in letting you know when something happens. So you probably wouldn't have to go around asking what happened. People would proactively say, hey, I'm glad to see you back. You know what? I broke your favorite cookie jar. I'm so sorry. That's the kind of thing that automatically happens when you are known to respond rather than to react. Okay? So let's say you're making that transition though. So now you're asking in a calm, even voice, does anyone know what happened? And because you're in a calm, even voice, chances are very good whomever knows something or whoever did it will come forward. And in that moment, there's two things that I typically do. Now, I do this even if someone came up to me and said, hey, Africa, you know what? I broke your cookie jar. I would acknowledge the fact that I'm angry. I find it very important to acknowledge all of your emotions, all of them. So if you're angry, if you're frustrated, if you're disappointed, whatever it is, acknowledge that. Not just to yourself, but with that person. And when I say acknowledge it, again, it doesn't mean to raise your voice. It doesn't mean to change anything from your kind of calm state. It's just, hey, this is what I'm feeling. Own your feelings. Not, this is how you made me feel when you broke my cookie jar. No, don't push it on them. It's not for them to own. Own your feelings. So I would own the feeling that I'm angry. I would own the feeling that I'm sad because this cookie jar belonged to my great, great, great grandmother, right? Whatever it is, right? Own all your feelings. And then say, again, you have a choice here. This is the second thing that I do, which is develop a plan, right? Make a decision. What are we going to do going forward? So it might be that it's something, not necessarily the cookie jar incident, but it might be something where I don't necessarily want the other person's input on how to move forward. I'm just going to let them know the plan. This might be something, especially in like a work situation, maybe in a friendship. It could happen in any situation. I'm not going to do that. But there are some situations where it's just best that you say, you know what? Going forward, it's going to be like this and like that. Not in an angry way, but just like matter of fact. But only after you own your feelings. I cannot stress enough owning your feelings, right? Okay, so what do you do after that? So let's say you decide, I'm not going to just kind of say this is what's going to happen. I actually want some input. This is what I typically do because I've owned my feelings. The other person doesn't feel so threatened because they're not having to take on your stuff, right? Now I say to them, hey, you know what? I'm really sad about the cookie jar. I'm really angry about the cookie jar. Well, what can we do moving forward? What can we do moving forward? So I'm asking them for input, right? And that person can then say, you know what, I feel so bad about it. Why don't we go shopping for another cookie jar for you? But, or you know what, I know I've always wanted to go to a pottery class and I want to make something special for you. It can turn out to be a myriad of things too, you know, just cold hard cash, right? All sorts of things in order for you to feel better, order for them really to feel better, because you cooperatively work toward a solution to the issue, right? You cooperatively work toward a solution to whatever happened. That's what happens when you respond to situations. If you're reacting, you'll never get to that point because you're so overtaken by your emotions. And it's almost at the point, chances are good if you're reacting, you'll yell at that person, say, you broke my cookie jar and you made me feel angry and you made me feel sad and no. And you'll push everything on them. Their defenses are up and there's no cooperation there at all. Sometimes with really good friends, you can come back later and try to make amends and work on something once people have cooled down. And sometimes you can't. You can't unhear words that were spoken to you, right? You can't unfeel the feelings, right? There's this, I don't want to say it, there's a vibe that you can put out when you're angry, and it feels like daggers, right? And you can't unfeel that if you're on the receiving end of those daggers. And you can't unhear the ugly names or the tone of voice used or any of that stuff, right? So that's why sometimes there's no turning back. Sometimes it's just going to curtail your future happiness because you reacted rather than responded. All right. So I want to go back over again those things to respond. All right, acknowledge and be present in that situation, right? After that initial, or whatever it is that you have at that initial thing, be present. Take some deep cleansing breaths, at least for 30 seconds. Why? Not to stifle down the emotions, right? But to turn on executive functioning, turn off the reptilian brain, right? So you can make some clear decisions. Again, so you can remain present. Then, if necessary, start asking questions in a calm way with really childlike curiosity, if you can manage it, right? Just be curious. Then, once that you're with the person that you need to be with, let them know exactly how you feel, but that you're owning your feelings, right? You're owning, I feel this way and I feel that way, not you made me feel, right? I feel. Then decide, are you going to go tell them the way forward, or are you going to work together to create a new way forward, right? And then, I didn't say this earlier, but move on, right? Don't hold a grudge forever. I know people like this, and it's so hard. Not only did they react when it happened, but then they hold a grudge forever, right? And that just poisons you. You're thinking you're poisoning them, but you're just poisoning yourself, right? You have to live with that ugliness inside you, that anger, that hate, and what have you. Stop poisoning yourself. Move on. Now, I know, is it the Bible? I think it's in the Bible, to forgive and forget. Forgive and forget. I would hear that a lot when I was a kid. And I'm like, I can forgive, but I cannot forget. But what I found now as I've gotten older is, unless it was something pretty egregious, I forget, right? By moving on, by responding rather than reacting, not only do I, 99.9% of the time forgive, I also, with pretty much that percentage, forget as well. Now, let me tell you, there are still times, even if you're doing this, yes, you will have a more peaceful life. That I can promise you. If you respond rather than react, you will have a more peaceful life. And there will still be times where you need to react, right? You need to react. Sometimes there's emergency situations, and instead of responding, you actually need to react to kick in that adrenaline, get things going, get things sorted, right? You're going to need to operate on some basic programming you don't even know that you have and get out of a situation, let's say, right? There will be those times that you need to react. But what I'm going to caution you to is always, if you can, take those 30 seconds so you know that this is time to react, because it's one of those small percentages of time where, it's a fight or flight situation, or if it's more advantageous to respond. All right, so that's what I have for you today. I'm so excited to share this with you. I wanted you to know that, yes, this is for a more peaceful life, and I'm all about that peace, joy, love lifestyle. And since you're here, go ahead, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, like this video, and let me know down in the comments what you thought. I want to hear all about it. Do you find that you react more than you respond, or vice versa? What are some of the things you're going to do now in order to respond more often? And if you are super interested in having a more peace, joy, love lifestyle, which I'm guessing you are because you were here because it said a peaceful life, then I want you to check out down in the comments below. I have a link to some free training on how to stop feeling overwhelmed. That is another piece to this whole puzzle of having a peace, joy, love lifestyle. So go down below in the comments, make sure to click that link, go over the training. I think it's about maybe 20 minutes long, and it will give you some very detailed things to do. Just like I gave you some detailed things to do in this video, there are detailed things to do in that video so you can stop feeling overwhelmed. All right, with that, I say peace, joy, love to you. Thanks for coming out to my live stream, and thanks for watching the replay.